billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I greet you, my brothers and sisters, with the noble and universal greeting of peace, the greeting that has been used by the prophets and messengers of our universal creator, Almighty Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is indeed a privilege and pleasure to be alive and to be guided to the mission that human beings have on this planet. Whether you study all kinds of different literature on philosophy or science or psychology, they'll always ask, like, why are we here? What is the reason for our being here? And whenever I hear people pondering that from their unawareness of revelation, and they come up with their own ideas, I'm always very grateful that we have the guidance that is the Quran. A revelation, the final revelation to humanity, and it tells us plainly why we are here. That human beings have been given an opportunity to be, and while we are here, we are to become aware of our Creator, to draw closer to our Creator, to become aware of the greatness of our Creator, the gracious nature of our Creator, and the gifts of our Creator. We are here, while we are here, to presence our Creator. And this is in context with that Satan is an enemy avowed. Our history is that Adam and Eve, in spite of being guided to remain without temptation or resist temptation, or there's nothing needed, but with the discussion with Satan, Adam and Eve had become acceptance of his suggestions, which is what Satan is a suggester. He is a prompter, a whisperer. And Adam and Eve had fallen prey to his predatory ways and went into a state of insecurity. And there, Adam and Eve and the children of Adam and Eve have lived and will live until guidance comes to us. And those who receive the guidance will no longer be in that insecure state, in that state of a diseased heart that is astray. So the Quran is plain in its guidance to us, and I can see it from my many decades of being alive and working with people and communities in this particular field, And now having committed myself to human excellence, supporting humanity to live at the highest levels that we can, you can begin to see that this is in fact the mission on the planet, that people are unaware of God. They do not presence God. They are not aware of the presence of God, our universal creator, Almighty Allah. I mean, as a created being, who or what would be the most important for you to presence in your life, to become aware of in your life? As a created being, who or what would it be the most important for you to presence, to become aware of in your life? As a created being, if you are not aware of your Creator and you don't have a relationship with your Creator, then that spells, to say the least, problems, or the worst is disaster. If a human being is not aware of their Creator and doesn't have a relationship with their Creator, there's problems or disaster. Well, the Quran says it, that those who fail to remember Allah, Allah fails to remember them. Those who fail to remember, if you don't remember Allah, Allah doesn't remember you. If you remember Allah, Allah remembers you. And those who fail to remember Allah will live a depressed life. A lot of people think, but I'm not depressed, I've got a nice car, I've got a nice house, I'm married and all that. It's a spiritually unexpressed life. If you fail to remember Allah, you will live a spiritually unexpressed life. It means you won't benefit yourself spiritually. You could benefit yourself physically in the world. There are people who can benefit themselves physically in the world. I'm going to come to that in a bit. But for now, I want to talk about what could be more valuable to us than submitting to our Creator, than being focused on our Creator. But you can't focus on your Creator if you don't recognize, if you're not aware that you're a created being, that you came into existence, that this existence is temporary and it's illusory, and sometimes for many it's delusionary, Only if you realize that you are caused to be, and that you are continued, and that you couldn't give yourself anything, not even a tooth, or a strand of hair. You couldn't do anything for you. You see, only when you become aware that you're a created being in a created world, that you have been caused and continued, you've been caused and you've been continued, you are being continued in this world through your death and beyond, not because of yourself, not because of your parents, not because of anybody or anything in the created world, not because of a man or a woman, not because of a business, not because of whatever, your body. Whatever people think is so special in the world, it's not because of that you are, and that you continue to be, and that you will continue beyond your physical death, be raised up again. See, if you're not aware that you are a created being in a created world, that you are secondary, you're a creation, and everybody in creation is secondary. If you're not aware that only the Creator alone really is actual, the Creator alone really is primary, there really is only God, Tawheed. There is none worthy of worship but Allah. Allah alone really is eternal, ever-living, everlasting, ever-existing, the real, the actual. His creation, He created. The creation and the Creator cannot be compared. We are therefore humble before our Creator. Get what I mean? So not everybody is into humility. And this is what it is, that how did it come to be where it is? Well, the Quran tells us Adam and Eve believed in the Satan's BS. You know what BS means, belief system. Satan suggests a belief system, and that belief system is that, shall I show you immortality in a world that will not perish? He tempted Adam and Eve to think about, you know what, you can live forever as a uncreated being, and the world can be forever. You can go beyond being a created being and have the features and characteristics of being a creation. You can be immortal. You can be God, and you can live in a world that never shall perish. You can live forever. It sounded, why judge Adam and Eve? We fall into the same, situation every now and then, thinking something is good for us when it's not really good for us. Thinking from a way, using our own mind instead of being spiritually aware. Feeling separate and scared and afraid, we do silly things. And so, I suppose our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So, Adam and Eve, let's not judge them and be harsh upon them, accepted an idea. And here we all are, in the state of, what's God, where's God, does God exist, having all different ideas about God and not really aware, because we live like we're immortal, we live like we weren't born, and we live like we'll never die. We live like the life of this world is forever. That's the promise of Satan. He fulfilled it. But it was illusion and delusion. It's a lie. He said, you will experience yourself as immortal, but nobody other than God is never born and never dying. You get what I mean? That which came into creation, came into creation. Never will it ever be immortal, because it came into creation by the grace, through the greatness and the grace of Almighty Allah, Universal Creator. So my point is, Adam and Eve and the children of Adam and Eve start realizing, hey, what did we do here? We are having this experience of feeling separate and feeling disconnected, and we've got all our different ideas, you know. Abel had the idea, let me kill. Cain had an idea, not Abel. Cain had the idea, you know, let me kill Abel. Seems like a good idea, because that's what happens when you are in a fallen state, when you think you're immortal and you think the world is forever and you make this world real, you forget about the Creator. You have some seemingly bright ideas, but they're not as bright as you think they are, because they are ideas that are based in ego arrogance, the separation of I know, I think, this is good. And so the Prophet Adam repented. He realized he was in error. He knew what was before that and what was after that. He realized this was a bad deal. This was really a trickery. And he asked for forgiveness. He repented. He was remorseful. He said, you know, I'm going to go back. Can we go back? And to what was before, this lowered state of consciousness, of separation, of denial of God, of dismissing God, of associating partners with God, of hypocrisy, of saying you believe in God but you don't. So human beings, and you know, Adam was told, there you and your people will be until guidance comes to you. When guidance comes to you, then you know you will no longer be astray, you'll no longer be insecure. But until then, the hearts are diseased, and they remain diseased because of this, you know, situation that happened with Adam and Eve and Satan, and people are misled by their own sense of separation. I exist, like I'm real, like I actually am. There's no humility. We have a temporary experience of life. We are temporary beings. We're caused to be. We are continued. We are given whatever we have. Humanity has been favored by our Creator. We're given the highest level of status on the planet. Favors. Allah is our cause and continuer, whom we are supported by, sustained by. It's not because of us. We're humble before our Creator. Those of us who have chosen submission. Those of us whose guidance come to us and we receive it. We then submit. This feeling of, oh, it's me. I'm alone. I got to do this. I got to think that. I got to figure it out. There's God and me. I got to turn to this God, that there is this God in me. I got to turn. And we humble ourselves. We submit. We realize there is none but the one. There is nothing that actually exists but Allah. And Allah produced His creation. We are His creation. And we are His cared for creation, considered creation. We can see that. And even Adam and Eve went astray, then His compassion is still upon us. There is championing of humanity. Allah tells us, Satan is the enemy of God. You tricked your forefathers, your forefather and foremother. You tricked them. Be cautious. Satan is the enemy of God. You get what I mean? That Satan will render you ungrateful. That we are here and our mission is to remember. Our mission is to remember. To remember means to like reattach, to remember. If you remember, if you become aware, if you presence God, if you wake up through submission, through presencing God, then you will no longer remain in the diseased heart. And that's what the Quran says. This is a book, a guidance to heal the diseases in the hearts. That if you bring to Allah a purified heart, that's going to avail you. Nothing else. Not your family, not your children, not your husband, not your business, not your money, not, economy is going to avail you. The only thing that's going to avail you is to bring to Allah a purified heart. So the Quran is telling us until guidance comes to us, we are not in this purified heart state. We are in a diseased heart state, and we are astray. And guidance comes to us. Those who receive that guidance, they will no longer be astray. Those who receive guidance will no longer be astray. And because they are purifying their hearts. They are addressing the situation of ego, arrogance, separation. I exist. I will look after my family. I have a business to look after me. I got a career. I can pay my own bills. I don't depend on anybody. My family can depend on me. I have somebody who I can depend on. They are the people I turn to. Remember what the Quran says, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Thee alone do we worship. Thee alone do we exclusively presence. Thee alone do we exclusively presence. Thee alone do we turn to. Before ourselves and depending on us, before others and depending on them, or before others depend on us, we all acknowledge that Allah, who has created us to depend on Him, to created us to rely upon Him. Allah never created us to rely upon ourselves. Allah never created us to rely on each other. Allah never created us to rely on anybody human or anything created. Allah is the fashioner, is the creator, is the originator. He knows what we are because He created us, and He knows our needs, desires and preferences. And Allah alone is for us to worship and turn to. Allah alone is sufficient for us and adequate for us. And that's where I began this talk today, saying to you that is there anybody or anything that a human being can focus on that can really benefit them other than the one who created them? And the challenge of human beings on the planet while we are here is to awaken from the diseased heart. When you're living your life, all human beings, they are living with a diseased heart and they're astray. They turn to themselves, each other. You get what I mean? We do not presence Allah. We feeling separate in that ego trance, that satanic trance, that the fallen state, that guidance comes and wakes us out of, for those who receive it. We actually living in this feeling like we are the authorities or people are the authorities. So every now and then you'll hear me talking about we don't take authorities from among ourselves. This is in the Quran. We do not take authorities from among ourselves. Even the Prophet said, I was told, you are not a manager of people, you're a messenger of people. He could have said, I'm an authority over you all, I'm your boss. He never did that. And he even said, there are things that I don't know. I'm only a man like you, guided, but I don't know. But yet we have today self-proclaimed authorities. We know, you got to listen to us. We right, don't listen to the other people. When I seem to criticize others, I want you to understand it is not a criticism, it is a critique. There are people who criticize each other to put themselves on a pedestal and to say, follow us. Don't follow them. I say follow Allah. Worship Allah, follow the guidance of the Quran, follow the amazing ways of being and guidance of the Prophet, his advice and so on and so forth. I never say follow me, and I don't care whether people, listen to me or not. The only thing that I really am interested in more than anything else in the world is my accountability before my Creator. I believe in Allah in the last day. I believe that Allah has created me and I'm on mission here. And my mission is to awaken from the trance. My mission is to awaken from living unconsciously and subconsciously. My mission is to awaken from the diseased heart. My mission is to bring to Allah a purified heart. My mission is to become Allah aware. My mission is to presence Allah. My mission is to submit my ignorance, my arrogance, my superstition, my sense of entitlement. My mission is to humble myself. My mission is to look around and become aware of Allah, presence Allah, revere the greatness of Allah, the power of Allah, to acknowledge it, to accept it. My mission is to rejoice Allah's gracious nature, to be thankful and grateful. My mission is to receive His gifts in this world and the world beyond. My mission is Iman, Amal, and a life tayyibun. My mission, I live to awaken from the fallen, diseased hearts, left astray. Guidance has come to me, and I am among those who have received the guidance. If you believe in Allah, He will guide your heart. I am not turning to any human being. I turn to Allah. The Quran says, A'udhu Billah. I don't say A'udhu Maulana. You understand? A'udhu Billah. Allah alone is for me to submit to. Allah alone is my guide. I'm not saying that other people cannot inform us and support us in their spiritual development. You get what I mean? But that's not happening. That's not happening. So I'm sharing this with you because last week I did say certain things, and people, I've been talking to people about it, and they say, look, we hear you, and we value what you're saying. Can you please support us with what you know? And that's why I'm telling you these things, that there's a mission. All human beings, according to the Quran, there's a mission for us while we are here. And that is not to make more money, to make more children, to have a bigger house. Now I might sound like Maulana Guru and gang, but even them are more interested sometimes in more money, more children, more house, more wives sometimes. But I'm saying that don't forget your portion in this world. Live naturally. That's why I said my mission is Iman, Amal, and Tayyibun, and a blissful return. In this world and in the next world. So the Quran says, if you're a man or woman, if you have faith, and if you conduct yourself honorably, whether you're a man or woman, then there is a life tayyibun. In this world you will live a wholesome life and a blissful return. So I am very grateful that there's a potential for me as a human being to live as a believer. I really want to live as a believer. Remember the Quran said to the Bedouin Arabs when they came to the Prophet and they say, we are believers, and the Prophet gave them the revelation that said, don't say you're a believer, for faith has not entered into your hearts. Rather say you are one submissive in religion. Now those Bedouin Arabs, they actually said the kalima. So that proves to us that saying the kalima, saying that I believe in Allah, I worship Allah, is not enough. To be a believer, you must purify your hearts. There must be iman in your heart. So I'm not here to support religious identity. I'm here to experience myself living as a spiritual entity, beyond promoting a religious identity, which is what is very prevalent in our society. The supporting of a religious identity. I do this, I don't do this. We believe this, you believe that. This is right, this is wrong. You know, that we believe. We don't eat like this, we eat like that, this, that. The separation between the sects in Islamism. So when I say there's only one real Islam, the rest of the sects and denominations, there's no many Islams. Islamism and Islam is two different things. When you're talking about living as a believer, there's only one universal experience of faith and honorable conduct and a life natural. You get what I mean? So I am here in support of my own. The most important thing to me is this potential that exists for me to submit to Allah. I want to submit to Allah. The possibility of experiencing Iman in my heart that allow me to feel and live as a secure human being. Not controlled by the world, not trying to control the world, because that's what happens when you remain in a diseased heart. You realize there's perversion. We've been speaking about it for weeks, that many people who say they are learned in deen, their spouses report regularly that these people are perverted in so many different ways. That's because they fill up their mind with religious identities and they live with religious information and they live as a religious identity, but in their hearts is a disease. Remember, the Quran speaks about these people. It says they say they believe in Allah in the last day, but they don't fool Allah, they only fool themselves. Hypocrites are self-deceivers. I'll talk a little bit about that just now. And I'm not criticizing any. To say that somebody is a hypocrite is not a shaming of them. It's a description of them. It's describing a certain type of person. Inshallah, before I complete this lecture today, I'll describe the different types of people, which is not a criticism or a shaming, but it's a showing you of what is the mission here, and who's going to achieve that mission, and what it means to achieve the mission. Because when you follow Satan's ways, you think it's about me and my pension, me in this world. You're more concerned about your body and what your body sees and what your body is in this world. You're not aware of the one who's interested. You're not interested in the one who gave you a body. You're not thankful to the one. You're not recognizing this body is created different from animals. We are favored. The Quran says we have created you in the best of molds. We fashioned you. When you're living lost with Satan in you think you're this body, you can't see that you have a body, and you cannot be grateful for that body. You cannot receive the Quranic messages because you're worshipping Satan. You're not really interested in submitting to Allah. You're more interested in what your eyes see than realizing that the eyes are because of Allah who gave you eyes to see. And you're more interested in what you're seeing in this world, and you think, oh, my end is the graveyard. You don't realize that the end of your body is the graveyard. But you will continue. You will be raised up again. See, the believers, they say they believe in Allah. The believers actually believe in Allah in the last day. I now am not interested in my future in this world. I'm interested in my future in the next world. While people are saying, what's your goal? 5-year goals, 10-year goals. I have afterlife goals. You know what I mean? I am interested. The believers have accepted that there's life after death. The non-believers, they say they believe, but they don't believe. They have this religious identity. It's all about this world. That's not criticizing anybody. That's just reflecting how people live. That other people are beginning to talk more and more about these people who have no connection with themselves as spiritual entities, but they live as religious identities. I'm talking about somebody without criticizing them. If you are one such person, don't react, don't fight me. I'm just giving you the truth. Choose truth. You can admit that you're a hypocrite, and then you can choose to work and receive the guidance, and then no longer live with a diseased heart. You can no longer self-deceive. You can actually say, I don't want to lie to myself anymore. I really want to draw closer to Allah and bring to Allah a purified heart. I really want to develop myself spiritually. You get what I mean? So, when we're living in this world, we can live like the caterpillars, who will live and die as caterpillars. But the caterpillar has a potential to become a butterfly. You get what I mean? While we are all in this fallen state, while Adam and Eve, after they ate that and people went into a slumber, a spiritual slumber, they did not really live, their hearts were still impure, and they were behaving in ways that were, so I'm always like Iman, Amal, and Tayyibun. And Tayyibun is halal and tayyib, and fil dunya fil akhirah. So what I am focused on, I'm not saying that anybody should, I'm not anybody's guru. Please don't think I'm your guru. Don't come to me, treat me like a guru. I'm just a person interested in accountability to Allah, that I want to live in this world with the mission that I'm here to presence Allah. I'm here to presence Allah. I'm here to claim that potential of Iman in my heart. I don't want to live and die with Iman not entering into my heart. That would be very sad for me. Even the Prophet Ibrahim, the Quran tells us, be like Ibrahim. He said to his children, do not die except in a state of submission. I choose to become aware of Tawheed and submit, actually experience myself as spiritually developed rather than a religious identity. In a world that we live in currently, I was talking about the Indian people and the Indian version of Islamism, there is very heavy leaning on religious identity as faith. They think because I dress like this and I do like this and we go to this mosque and we don't go to that mosque, then we are believers. If you're a believer, you don't lean on religious identity. People are scared about how they dress and how they look, like that's the end all. That's identification with the body. That's identification with an identity. That's not a submission of the identity. And in your heart be pure. The Quran says among people of different race, different religions, there are people who are believers. They don't have the religious identity. They don't have the religious identity of what we understand as a Muslim, but they are believers. You see, so a lot of people don't understand the difference between a religious identity and Iman in the heart, because this guidance is not there, and people are calling me and telling me, I'm worried. My behavior is indicative that there's some problem with me. And I said, that's because you're spiritually ill. Your heart is diseased. This perversion that we see in society, especially among these people, this priestly class, the guru gang that's hidden behind closed doors. You know what I mean? That's there because of the perversion. There's no submission of separation. There's no submission. There's no humility before Allah. So we all, to give you an analogy which I began about 2 weeks ago, shukr to Allah, that you can live as a caterpillar, die as a caterpillar. You can live without iman and amal, which is your potential. As a human being, Allah has created you to be higher than the animals. You understand? We have the potential to reason. You can live your life without reasoning, or you can reason. Like when I'm sharing this with you, some of you will begin to say, hey, this guy is making sense, because he's not criticizing as much as he's describing. He's describing that there was a time as Indians, we were Hindus, and so there were movements to promote a religious identity as a first step of distinction between other religious groups. But it stopped there. It didn't move into spiritual development. It was like, hey, we got the Quran, now we mustn't read the other book, or if there was another book. Hey, we got the Prophet, now we must show, we must show we're not like who we were. And I suppose there's some value in that. When we look at our Indian culture, and when the Arabs came to India and gave us, and we were Hindus, and gave us the teaching, the first thing might have been like, let's distinguish ourselves from who we were. And there's great value, don't get me wrong, there's great value in like we don't gamble, we don't drink alcohol, we don't turn to created things. There's great value in that. There's a beautiful teachings that is like for this world that Islam gives us. The Sharia is beautiful for this world. That if you live in a world where we don't promote alcohol, and we don't promote the selling of it, or consuming of it, we don't consume it, or gambling, we don't promote these things. These things are not good for us and our families and society. We don't do that. We don't eat food that is, makes you sick, like unclean foods, scavenging animals. There's value in that, don't get me wrong. I'm not dismissing the value that these people have made and through a religious identity. I'm just saying that the mission in this world is to bring to Allah a purified heart. That might have been a first step to strengthen themselves collectively from where they came from, to be distinguished and different, at least as an identity, in the mindset, to say, hey, look, we're not like who we were before, we've accepted a different way. But the mission here is to bring to Allah a purified heart. You can follow religion, then there's value in it. I will not dispute that. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the reason why I'm here, the make or break. I'm here to presence Allah. I'm here to presence Allah in my life. I'm here to submit the part of me that is presenting myself as real and presenting the world as real. The part of me that's presenting myself as permanent and I don't need Allah and the world doesn't need Allah. And I want to go beyond that and admit that it is only because of the unseen creator that I am and I continue to be, that I have been blessed and benefited. I want to be grateful. I want to be thankful. I want to live as a person who is spiritually aware, spiritually alive. The first benefit that we can do, which is the most important benefit while we are here, not to say if you keep away from foods that are unclean. And the Quran not only says keep away from foods that are unclean, it says have foods that are clean, but that are tayyib, wholesomely prepared and all that. Have them wholesome, which, this is now, they don't teach us about that. It's halal and tayyib. I've spoken about this before, I'm not going to speak about it again. People are selective over what they want in religion too. They make it suit them. So my point is, you can live without gambling, you can live without alcohol abuse or alcohol, you can live with hygiene, physical cleanliness, you can eat. Even non-Muslims today, through their own scientific way, will tell you don't eat pork. It's a scavenging. And they will, even non-Muslims are following the guidance of the Quran that's saying when you prepare your food, prepare like this and that. And the Muslims are just saying, as we don't eat pork, we can kill the food and make it poison as we eat it. You know what I mean? Even non-Muslims can actually realize that, these systems are not serving us on the planet. They're leading to our destruction. usury and all that. It's gone. The situation is bad, people. I'm not here a naysayer, but I'm saying the good news is I'm not living for this world, and the life of this world will not continue. No matter how bad it gets in this world, it gets better, it gets good and better in the hereafter for the believer. This world is temporary. A dark time that we have ushered in has come in. It's unnaturalness, whether it's perversion of all different kinds. It's coming. Because we didn't stand for Iman and Amal and a life tayyibun. We have stood for not that. Now, us and our children are going to be left, right and center, promoted the way of no faith, no Iman, no Amal, no tayyibun is going to be the way. We've been championed. Don't get us wrong. Don't get me wrong. It didn't happen to us. We ushered it in. We brought it in. We didn't receive the guidance of the Quran. We just thought it was about a religious identity. Anyway, the good news is, no matter how bad it gets in this world, the hereafter is the home. The hereafter is forever. And I'm grateful that while I'm here, I repent. I'm grateful that while I'm here, I can do the best that I can. And for my soul, spiritual development is what I'm talking about. Going beyond the diseased heart, going beyond being astray, going beyond just having a religious identity. So we can live, all of us, as caterpillars and die as caterpillars with the potential of the butterfly not there. But the guidance of the Quran, the guidance of the Prophet, Allah is championing of us. He knows what we are and what He created us to be. He knows that beyond Satan's promptings, when we claim the refuge with Him, we can aspire higher, desire higher, we can live Iman, Amal and Tayyibun. And so the great mission here is to claim refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. That's the great mission here. And that's not taught in the madrasas. I spoke to a person yesterday. I have great respect for him. He told me he grew up in a family where his family have taught madrasa. But he's spiritually sick. I said to him, you're spiritually sick because the madrasa didn't teach us. It didn't teach us spiritual well-being. It didn't teach us spiritual health. It didn't teach us Satan is an enemy avowed and how to claim refuge with Allah. We are not to fight Satan. Allah didn't say, you know what, Satan is your enemy, you go and fight him. Allah says, claim your refuge with me. A'udhu, say a'udhu, come to me. In your coming to me, you will be protected from Satan. I can tell you that firsthand. I can tell you that. I've claimed the believer's refuge. In fact, from about 2018, 2019 or so, I went beyond giving the mosque lectures and doing the seminars. We did over 36 seminars, free to the public. And after that, the remaining students are continuing. The group is called The Believer's Refuge. Inshallah soon, if people are interested, we'll do retreats and seminars for people who are sincere, who want to actually see that what does it mean to claim the believer's refuge. What is our purpose here? It's not to present an identity to the world, but it's to live here awakened beyond the caterpillar and live here as a butterfly. The person who has Iman in their hearts and the person who doesn't have Iman in their heart is two different people. I can tell you from my own life. The caterpillar doesn't look anything like the butterfly. The butterfly is nothing like the caterpillar. The believer is nothing like the denier, the associator, the hypocrite. So you can live with Iman and Amal and a life tayyibun. It's a butterfly's life. You can do that. The Quran is the guidance. Everything that I tell you is from the Quran. Nothing do I tell you is from my own mind. It's from the Quran. Shukr to Allah. It's from the Hadith that is supportive of faith, Iman, Amal, and a life tayyibun. You get what I mean? So there is this potential. But there are three types of people who remain without actually claiming this potential. That means, although you can live having Iman in your heart, and when you remember Allah, there's tranquility and peace in your heart, you won't. Allah has told us through the prophets and even in the Quran, there is good news. There is good news. There's good news. Who told you there's good news? Did anybody tell you it's good? They tell you it's bad news. Allah doesn't want you to be happy. The Quran says Allah wants ease for you. The Quran says Allah is championing your return the believers. Allah is encouraging you. Allah is encouraging you to come closer to Him. The people are telling us you must be in fear of Allah. The Quran says it is the friends of Allah. They will never fear and they will never grieve. They will never grieve, they will never fear. So what happens if somebody tells you fear Allah, when the Quran is saying if you're a friend of Allah, you'll never fear, you'll never grieve. You know what I mean? Are people saying fear Allah, don't be a friend of Allah? I want to be a friend of Allah. I encourage that potential exists for all human beings to be a friend with Allah. You get what I mean? To draw closer, to be intimate with Allah. To prostrate and draw closer. But they are people. They are misled. Satan, in their identity, Satan comes to you from all directions, right? The Quran says, and renders you ungrateful. So while we as a group of people said no longer are we following the ways of our forefathers, what these Arabs are telling us about Islam is the right way now, we are more interested in our identity. We got so obsessed with the identity, not to say there's no value in religion in this world, but the main purpose of submission to Allah, purifying the heart, spiritual development, it didn't evolve into that. And in spite of me trying to speak to so-called university graduates, intelligent people, they still follow this way. They can't see that this is what's taught in the madrasa is like a system that doesn't address spiritual development. Teaching people to read the Quran in Arabic without teaching them its beautiful message of claiming refuge with Allah, that what we are here is to claim refuge in Allah, that Allah wants ease for us, that Allah is telling us that we can live with faith and what it means to have Iman in our hearts. Which madrasa is teaching people about Iman? Madrasas are telling people if you say the kalima, you have Iman, but that's not what is implicit in Islamic teaching. The Quran says, do you say you'll believe and you won't be tested? You think you're just going to say, that's it, I said I'm a believer. There's a responsibility that we have towards our souls. You don't just say, some people say Jesus Christ died for my sins, I'm saved. You don't just say, well, I just say these words, la ilaha illallah, I'm saved. No, there is a responsibility we have towards our soul. There's a responsibility for us to reason. There's a responsibility for us. So when you start reasoning compared to not reasoning, you'll go from being a caterpillar to the butterfly. And when you start reasoning and you start bringing Allah into awareness and you have a relationship with Allah, which madrasa is teaching people to have a relationship with Allah? The madrasas are teaching people to do rituals. So when I ask people who you worship, they say Allah. I ask them, do you know who Allah is? Are you aware of Allah? Do you have a relationship with Allah? I worship Allah. I read namaz. I read namaz. I say, saying the name Allah, you can say any other name. Like saying a person is compassionate, but they're not really compassionate, but calling them compassion. Let's just say you call somebody who's very aggressive or impatient, Sabur. Sabur Salam. Maybe the guy's name was Mr. Sabur Salam. Sabur. Peaceful and patient. But he is a horrible man. You get what I mean? You're calling him something, but that's not what he is. Now turn it around. You know the names, but you don't know what it means. You still don't know Allah. You get what I mean? So this is the situation here. You can either live and die as a caterpillar, or while you're here, you can develop yourself spiritually to bring to Allah a purified heart. To have a relationship with Allah and presence in your heart. You can submit while you are here. Submit the ego self. That's what I teach people, how to do that. The separation. To experience humility, experience the power of Allah, experience awe for Allah's greatness, adoration for Allah's graciousness, and appreciation for Allah's gifts. You can live experiencing, feeling assured and reassured, and know that you're good in this world and the world beyond is ensured. You can live with security while the collective identity promoters are telling you should live feeling threatened. There is good news, the Quran tells us. There is good news. And those who submit, those who draw closer to Allah, for them, when they remember Allah, in their hearts there's tranquility, there's assurance. And I can tell you I experienced that. It wasn't always like that, but I am. I can tell you I am no longer a caterpillar. I am butterfly. Shukr to Allah. I'm experiencing the world very differently. I'm beyond the diseased heart to the degree that I was controlled by it. I'm peaceful. I'm patient. I am focused. I'm focused. I don't just say I believe in Allah in the last day. I don't just stand in prayer, but my heart lacks the lacks the basic of kindnesses. The hypocrites are the ones whose heart they stand in prayer. Don't think, if you stand in prayer, you're not a hypocrite. So let me just end this by telling you about the 3 different types of caterpillars that exist. When we human beings are living before guidance has come to us, and if we didn't receive the guidance, you'll either be a denier of Allah, you will not be aware and accept the one power sufficient for us, adequate for us, you will not experience peace and trust in Allah. You say, there's no God, I'm alone, I'm here, I've got to just live for this world. Those are deniers. There are some people who were born into Muslim homes, but they are deniers. They may or may not go to mosque, but they are deniers. They just go for the sake of culture. There are some people that are associated. So you pick which one of these 3 you have been or are, because it is from this 3, you have to go from one of these 3 to this alternative of being a believer. If you are interested, really interested in spiritual well-being, if you really are interested in truth, if you're interested in promoting the ways of your forefathers, if you're interested in identities and saying I'm a this, I'm a that, if you're really interested in knowing yourself to be a believer, if you're really interested in experiencing yourself before I'm a human being, even before I'm a Muslim, I am a believer. Even before I'm a father, even I am aware of Allah and I have submitted to Allah. I am a submitter before I have embraced, my identity. Before my identity as a human identity, I am one aware of what I am. I'm a creation of Allah, a favored creation of Allah. If you want, because that's what the butterfly is. The butterfly is aware of the true nature of Allah, the true nature to the degree that we can be aware of Allah, the true nature of us as human beings, the true nature of what's going on the planet, what's happening here. The true believer can see, is aware, is experiencing, is expressing, is secure, is applying themselves in a spiritually beneficial way. See? So, if you're living saying, I don't know God, what's that, I don't know, then you're a denier, kuffar, deny. It's not a shaming word, although a lot of people think that it's a swear word in this country. Kuffar. It's one who denies truth, who conceals God, who doesn't want to have anything to do, doesn't want to remember. They're remaining Adam and Eve's children, but they don't want to remember, they don't realize there's anything to remember. They are those people, kuffar. Some of them sit in the mosques because they just got to do that out of culture. It'll look funny if they don't go there, when they do. The associators are those who think that there's something in this world or something in their fantasy world that is something that can benefit them. Something created or something in their fantasy world. They take people, things, shirk now, the second one, associator. You don't claim refuge with Allah, you claim refuge with Maulana Guru. You know what I mean? You're looking to somebody except your creator. You're turning to somebody. You're not into Iyaka na'budu, Iyaka nasta'in, but these people may have a religious name. They may or may not go to mosque, but they are like, somebody help me. Or I can help somebody. Come to me, I'm your God. Oh, you are my God. They might not say it like that, but their life is, because of somebody else I'm depending on, I'm okay. The bank manager is my God. I'm controlled by him. He's the one who tells me what to do, sing and dance, because I need him. I'll follow him. Do you understand? Associator is, I'm looking for, the denier, kuffar, says there's no gods. I'm alone. We live and die this world. The associator, it says there is a God. They project power onto something or somebody. But what they project power onto has no power. Idols of different kinds, or even in the physical world, things are made out of their hands, or money as an idol, turning to something created or something you manufacture, or manufacture in your fantasy world as well. You can make up a god and have an idea and worship that idea. Even ideologies can be something you control by or give power to or turn to or think is going to save you. You get what I mean? The third caterpillar type is the hypocrites. Again, it's not a swear word, it's not a shaming of anybody. It's people who deceive themselves. They're living not really in the butterfly faith, iman, amal, tayyibun. They're not living naturally. They're not into spiritual development. They're not into purifying their hearts. They have a religious identity. They say they believe in Allah in the last day. They dress, they act, they talk, whatever it is. But in their hearts is a disease. You see? They may read the Quran, they don't understand a word of what they're reading. They think that to be like the Prophet means to grow a beard. That's what they think to be like the Prophet is. They are living in this fantasy fiction world where they're lying to themselves and others, thinking they're lying to Allah. But they don't lie to Allah. And those of us who are close to Allah, those of us who are close to truth, those of us who are wanting to see the error of our ways, we'll see this in us. And we'll see it in them. You get what I mean? So all these three, the denier, the kuffar, the associator, the mushrik, and the munafiq, the hypocrite who says they believe in Allah in the last day, they all three, their hearts are diseased. They are left astray. They are failing their mission here. It's the one who chooses to submit, the one who chooses to become aware of Allah and presence Allah, the one who chooses to go beyond the culture that doesn't stand for iman, amal and tayyibun. The individuality that doesn't stand for iman, amal and tayyibun. Inshallah, next Friday I'll continue from this particular point. That submission unites us all as aware of Allah, humble before Allah. Inshallah, I'll continue this next Friday. All praise, glory and thanks is due to Allah Almighty. His choicest blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.